Hi, I'm Sarah Hart, Director of Drive Hart, and I'm joined today by the other Director of Drive Hart, Julie Clayton.
Hello.
Hi. This is Series 2, Session 2. Today we're going to be talking about the theory test for PDIs. The theory test comprises two parts, hazard perception and multiple choice. So it's really important that before you embark on this theory test that you've done your homework. I think that's one of the main things to say, isn't it?
Yeah, I think probably the first thing I would do is if you go onto the .gov site and you type in the search bar, become a driving instructor, there's a really good overview of what's involved in the theory test, its marking criteria, etc. But we'll touch on that in a bit. But one of the first key points is make sure that you've done sufficient revision. And we would definitely recommend the package which is on the .gov site, which is the Safe Driving for Life. And if you make sure that you sign up for the instructors package.
That's really important, isn't it? And one of the big differences worth mentioning now is that the instructor's theory test is made up of 4 different bands. So they're going to be asking you things about legislation and instructional techniques, driving test, disabilities and the law, principles of training, learning and teaching, and road procedure, traffic signs and driving techniques.
So if you take the package which is recommended on the .gov site, it actually manages your revision in those bands that they're going to test you on. And each of the bands has got 25 marks assigned to it. And you have to pass it at 80%, which is you have to get 20 and above marks to pass each band, and you have to pass all 4 on the same sitting, as well as passing the hazard perception, which we're going to come on to.
So as Julie says, that's right, 20 out of 25 at least in each band, and you have to have at least 85% overall score. And again, you have to pass your hazard perception at the same time. And the hazard perception minimum mark is 57. That's your lowest pass mark out of available 75 points.
Okay, so our sort of key tips for the multiple choice. And the first one is if you go on to Safe Driving for Life, do the revision packages for each band and do the mini mock tests for each band before you do a full mock test. And then we strongly recommend that once you've done all the revision package, that you do between 10 and 15 full mock tests, which again you can do on the package, and make sure you're getting those at pass rate level before you contemplate putting in for the test. And this will simply make sure that you're familiar with the test structure, that you've got a good understanding of the material, but it will also give you time to look at the publications which is recommended in the .gov site, which you need to have that wider understanding of the questions in the 4 bands on multiple choice.
Yeah, I'd also say at this point that this is not just a theory test to be passed, tick in the box, over, done with, gone. Your knowledge that you gain practicing and revising for your theory test will take you through your whole life as an ADI. So it's a really good base. So, get the most that you can out of it, for sure.
So some of the practicalities to book your theory test, again, go to .gov and look up Become a Driving Instructor, and it will take you to the tab which says Start Now to book your theory test. You will need your UK driving licence number, your personal reference number from the DVSA, so it's assumed you've got to have registered, and your email address, and of course a credit or debit card to pay the £81 required. So those are the practicalities of booking your test. The other side of it is what to do when you get to the test itself. So have we got any tips on that?
No, you'll be asked to put all your personal belongings in a locker. And you just go in and sit in your booth and do your test.
So the important thing is to remember that you're going to be using a computer. So if you've been doing all your revision on a laptop or a phone, you might want to ask a friend if they can use a computer to do some revision, just to get used to how, for example, the hazard perception test looks differently on a large computer screen. And some of the key tips are, on your multiple choice side is read the questions carefully. And there is a flagging system so that you can come back to questions if you're not sure of the answer. So use the flagging system. It does help. Making sure that you just take that couple of seconds to review if you've got time at the end of your test. So any other tips for hazard perception, Sarah?
No, other than, we offer support for our PDIs. If they're struggling with it, we'll get them over to the office to have a go. But just practice it and make sure, like Judy says, that you're getting the good scores in your mock tests.
One of the most common issues that people have is either clicking too late or clicking too early with hazards. So it's really important to understand what the examiners are looking for in terms of identifying a hazard. So there is a revision package on that in the Safe Driving for Life. But what I would recommend is that you go and do the review of each hazard test that you do. And there is a review function where you can see at what point were 5 points scored, and look and see how the examiner has viewed that as being a hazard. In other words, what changed, and it could be a car signalling or a wheel of a car pulling out, or it could be the emergence of a horse or animal. So you need to understand what it is that they are defining as a hazard, so that you can start to make sure that your click pattern is appropriate for the point at which you would score the best score. So a lot of these tips are included in the Safe Driving for Life. You can see the review packages there, so I would definitely subscribe to that. Any other points for part one?
No, I think we've covered everything, but obviously we're here to be contacted if anybody's got any queries. Obviously, as always, feel free to contact us, and hope that little chat has been useful for you.
Okay, thanks.
Lovely, thank you.